Today, we will be discussing the play Clybourne Park, written by Bruce Norris, and why we believe it is a relevant and worthy production in today's day and age. To begin with, here is a clip to help familiarize those of you who have not yet seen or heard of Clybourne Park.
Clybourne Park is a play by Bruce Norris.
It's like two one-act plays.
Both acts takes place in the same house, 50 years apart.
The first act of the play is set in 1959.
Bev, I get the impression your husband's telling me I'm not permitted to speak.
I don't think it's a good idea.
There is a community who don't want to have black people living in their part of town.
Well, I think you're being a tad unreasonable.
I think we've reached the end of this particular discussion. And some of the people from the neighborhood come and ask them to stop the sale of the house.
Well, Russ, I'm going to ask you at least to keep an open...
Carl! What did I just ask you?
And this house represents a sort of territory that these different groups are fighting over. I am truly surprised.
Well, surprised.
And a little disappointed.
Sorry to disappoint you.
A real shame for all concerned.
That's the way things go sometimes. The second act is 50 years later.
A white family's moving back into the neighborhood. There was a great article 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you saw this, about the history of the changing ethnic...
distribution
of the neighborhood.
The community is now an all-black community.
What they want is a definite respect for the people who have lived there before.
In the 70s, 80s, how that was followed by a period of rapid...
Decline. No,
growth.
I don't mean decline. I mean there was
Growing.
trouble.
But a lot of these issues you see are similar in both of these decades.
Because, you know, the two of us with both crackheads. It looks at issues of race, it looks at gentrification.
Trying to be politically correct and saying the right thing, and they put their feet in their mouth quite often.
It's not like one day all these Jews were sitting around Prague looking at the real estate section going, hey, here's an idea, let's all go live in that ghetto.
This is a play that works like a Swiss watch.
I don't think it's either positive or negative.
It's really interesting, and there's a lot of humor that comes out of that.
It's a real delight to be able to come back to a play like this.
As mentioned in the video, Act 1 takes place in 1959 in Chicago. The main characters of Act 1 are Russ, who is white in his late 40s, Bev, who is married to Russ, white in her 40s, Francine, black in her 30s, Jim, white in his late 20s, Albert, married to Francine, black in his 30s, Carl, who is white in his 30s, and Betsy, married to Carl in her late 20s. The central conflict is about a black family moving into a white neighborhood. This conflict leads to racist remarks being made and tempers rising.
Act 2 takes place in 2009 in the same house as Act 1. The characters are Tom, who is white in his late 20s, Lindsay, who is white in her late 20s, Kathy is white in her 40s, Steve is married to Lindsay, white in his 30s, Lena is black in her 30s, Kevin is married to Lena, who is black in his 30s, Dan is white in his late 40s, and Kenneth is white in his late 20s. The main conflict is a white family is now trying to move into the predominantly black neighborhood. This then leads to racist remarks and insensitive jokes being made.
To market this play, advertising can be done in a diverse and populated area like Chicago. The advertising that should be used are things like bus ads, billboards, subway ads, posters, and more. All of these would aid in attracting a diverse audience that would have an interest in the subject of this play. The people we would need to work on this play would be a producer, director, stage manager, costume designer, set designer, actors, sound and light people, and more.
The play compares how racism has evolved from 1959 to 2009. In 1959, Carl exhibited blatant racism by proposing to Russ that the black family should not live in their neighborhood. Here is an excerpt from the play directly. It starts with Russ. Carl says, Carl is claiming, Carl, Russ, I have met personally with the family, and, Bev, what family? Russ, he claims this family, the family to whom Ted sold the house. Carl, it's a colored family. Jim, sorry, don't we say Negro now? Carl, I say Negro. Jim. Well, it's only common courtesy, and I'm Carl. I say them interchangeably. Jim. Not trying to tell you how to conduct your business. Carl. And of course I said Negro to them. No, I think we both know what we're doing. Jim. And furthermore, I don't think Ted would pull a stunt like that. Carl. Yes, we all admire Ted, but I think any of us would accuse him of putting the community's interest ahead of his own. Bev. Oh, this is ridiculous. Carl. And I don't think any of us have forgotten what happened with the family that moved on Conster Avenue last year. No, Conster Avenue is one thing, but Clybourne Street? Bev. Wait. Carl, are you sure? Carl. I was sitting with them not 2 hours ago. Bev. But isn't it possible that they're, I don't know, Mediterranean or... Carl. Bev. They are 100%. And I don't know how much time any of you have spent in Hamilton Park, but Betsy was sitting in the car, and I can tell you, there are some unsavory characters. Now, Bev displayed a form of racism where she was trying to pass off all of her unwanted belongings to Francine and Albert because of the fact that they were black. We have another excerpt on page 40 and 41. Starts with Bev. Oh, don't mind that. Thank you so much. Albert. No trouble. And do let me offer you some money for your help. Oh, no, ma'am, that's all right. Oh, are you sure? Yes, ma'am. Well, here then. Let me at least give you 50 cents. No, you keep your money. Or how about $1? Take $1, I don't care. Ma'am. Or take 2, it's just money. Happy to help. Or take something, you have to take something. No, ma'am, but what about this chafing dish? Did you see the dish? Well, we got plenty of dish. Not one of these, Francine told me. Well, that's very kind of you, but she said you don't have one, and somebody should take it, and we don't need it, ma'am. Make use of it. So if you let me just wrap it for you. Ma'am, we don't want your things, please. We got our own things. Well, trying to explain to you. Well, if that's the attitude, then I just don't know what to say anymore. I really don't, if that's what we're coming to. Ma'am, everybody's sorry for your loss. You know, I would be so proud, so honored to have you and Francine as our neighbors, and your 2 children. 3 children. Maybe we would learn what the other person eats. Maybe that would be the solution to some sort of, if someday we could sit down together at one big table and that's the end of the quote. In 2009, the conversation changes a bit about race. It's less direct than in 1959. For example, there was a great deal of time where Steve felt conflicted about telling a racist/homophobic joke. Going to read the joke. We're going to start with Lena. Well, she says it's so offensive, and I have no way of knowing if she's right. And if I don't hear it, how will I ever know? Steve, you know what? I don't even remember it now. Lena, 2 men in jail, you said. Kathy, oh, I know this one. Lindsay, Stephen. Lena, wasn't that it? 2 men? Steve, okay, so look, it's not even my joke, okay? It was told me by Kyle Hendrickson, who, for what it's worth, happens to be Lena Black. Steve, right. Lena, so the white man goes to jail. Lindsay, I can't believe you actually intend to. Fine. Steve, anyway. Lindsay, knock him dead. Steve goes to jail, for embezzlement. Something. Little white guy, and he's put in a jail cell with this, Lena, with the black man. Steve, big black guy. Lindsay, and why big? Steve, I'm repeating verbatim a joke. Lindsay, why does it have to be big? What does that reveal about your subconscious? Steve, in the precise manner in which it was told to me. Lena, little white man. Lindsay, oh God. Lena, big black man. Steve, yeah, so they, slammed the cell door behind him, I guess, and the black guy turns to the white guy. Black guy goes, okay, I'm gonna give you a choice. While you're in here with me, you can either be the mommy or you can be the daddy. And the white guy thinks for a second, and he goes, I guess if it's up to me, I guess I'd have to say I'd prefer to be the daddy. And the black guy goes, okay, well then bend over, cause mommy's gonna fuck you in the ass. Kathy, That's not the one I was thinking of. Steve, so is that offensive? Lena, no. Lindsay, are you insane? Steve, to you, how is it offensive to you? Lindsay, I don't think it's me you should be asking. Lena, no, the problem with that joke, see, is that it's not funny.
This play is relevant to us today because racism is still very prevalent in today's society, especially with racial tensions rising due to several recent racial events in America. These different characters highlight various forms of racism that are recognizable today. For example, Carl's blatant racism and Bev's passive racist behaviors. The second act of this play takes place recently enough that the audience can more directly relate to the characters, and the audience can also see the more subconscious thoughts of prejudice. Through these thoughts and actions, the audience will be able to see the way that prejudice still exists today. Finally, the importance of this production is that it allows the audience to reflect on their own lives and also become more conscious of their own behaviors, as well as racial behaviors and preconceptions that they may not have been aware of.
In conclusion, due to the themes and concepts shown in the play Clybourne Park by Bruce Norris, this play could be successfully produced in Chicago or another mid-sized, diversely populated city. With recent racial tension in America, this play is now more relatable than ever. We appreciate your time, and we thank you for your consideration.